Hot summer. Li Wen wiped the hot sweat from his head. The weather near 40 degrees Celsius made him almost collapse from the heat. "Boss, can you turn on the air conditioner?" The female voice that was supposed to be pleasant came to his ears weakly. "Hold on, it will be 12 o'clock soon, and it will open again at 12 o'clock. Look at you, how handsome is a girl holding an electric fan?" The employee who made the sound was his assistant. He runs a game company that is on the verge of bankruptcy. There are only 2 people left in the whole company, Chen Rui, an assistant who knows nothing, and Li Wen, the boss, game director, and programmer. In fact, Li Wen is a time traveler. When he woke up, he found himself in another world and became the owner of a game company. "I haven't been happy yet, and found that the company has a serious deficit and is on the verge of bankruptcy. Even the office has moved to his home. The game industry in this world is very developed, and the game masterpieces whose picture quality is so bursting that it is hard to distinguish the level of virtual reality are frequently released. And because there is no problem of piracy, many game companies make a lot of money, and it is not an exaggeration to say that they are picking up money with sacks. Such a good game production environment has bred countless game engine companies. From cheap to expensive, games of various genres can find corresponding game engines. As long as they have dreams and money, anyone can easily make a game with a bursting screen. Coupled with the power of the game engine, the production cycle of the game has also been shortened a lot. A game that took several years to produce in the original world before it can be officially launched can be completed in just 1 or 2 months in this world. The production cycle of independent games is shorter, and it can be produced as fast as 1 day. Li Wen's predecessor was a young man with a dream, and he resolutely devoted himself to the game industry. However, in such a developed game industry, his predecessor had no unrestrained imagination and no knowledge about game marketing. After persisting for a year, the company was in a semi-closed state, and all the backbones left. If Chen Rui was not his cousin, he would have already left. After Li Wen was reborn, he carefully studied the game proposal left by his predecessor. "Shit. This is absolutely a piece of shit. Obviously what I want to do is an easy to pass game. However, a lot of settings have to be added, and some settings are very inexplicable to Li Wen. For example, the number of times a weapon can be used is limited. Another example is that the death of the character will permanently deduct the upper limit of life. Why do you want to add these settings? It's very confusing. If this company does not go bankrupt, it is too much for God. To make a game, you must first define the audience." Therefore, without hesitation, he tore up the proposal to shreds. If he really made games according to the proposal, the game company would definitely be ruined. He began to study the game of this world. "I found that the most popular games in this world are almost all strong characters and weak enemies, crushing all the way to pass the level. All games are highlighting the refreshing feeling of players when playing. There is no Underworld game? No wonder, the predecessor will easily add so many settings to the game, the purpose should be to attract players' attention." But the predecessor failed. The predecessor did not understand what the game of the Underworld was. It's not that a game can be a game of the Underworld if it is stuffed with Underworld settings. Is the essence of the Underworld game easy to add disgusting players to the game? No, the essence of the Underworld game is actually also to pursue the player's refreshing feeling. Suppress first and then rise, and get through the level that has been stuck to the player a little bit, and the player will instantly gain unprecedented achievements and refreshment. This kind of refreshment cannot be provided by other cool games. So, Li Wen made a decision. Starting today, he is going to be an Underworld game producer. The first Underworld game he made was a small independent game. It costs 1,000 yuan to buy the right to use the engine. And this 1,000 yuan was prepared to be compensated to Chen Rui by his predecessor. The compensation is not much, a total of 5,000 yuan. He used up 1,000, and there are 4,000 left. This day, is really unbearable. The game he made was once popular on the entire internet, and countless anchors played it crying their fathers and mothers, but the popularity has not decreased. Instead, it has created an era where gamers on the entire network cry their fathers and mothers together. It also created a famous scene. While playing a game, a hot man smiled calmly and said, "Playing a game is to play with a smile, and the mentality is the most important." However, in the next second, the hot man started smashing the mouse and keyboard. When countless well-known anchors play this suffering game, their faces will become ferocious and their mouths will be fragrant. That's right. It's the guy in the tank who can only move with a sledgehammer, and the game is called Getting Over It with Bennett Foddy. In Li Wen's world, this is an indie game with super high difficulty. The mouse can control the sledgehammer to move, and the setting is also very simple. You only need to climb to the top floor to pass the level. To advance upwards, you need to use a sledgehammer to hook on some protrusions, and move slowly bit by bit, which is very difficult to operate. However, because the game does not know what kind of weird engine it uses, it makes it very awkward for players to operate. In addition, the characters in the game are not slippery, and if they are not careful, they will fall to the place where the game started. As long as a little mistake, all previous efforts will be wiped out, and we can only start from scratch. After a few times, players with the best mentality will scold their mothers. This is a serious underworld game. Li Wen has been writing code for the last 2 days trying to reproduce it perfectly. Even if the production engine he bought was very cheap, the game engine in this world is really great, and it is very difficult for him to create that weird and slippery feeling. Fortunately, before the time travel, he had been working in a game company. Although he hadn't produced any masterpieces, he had also produced a lot of skin-changing mobile games, making money, not shabby. Has rich experience in game production. It took 3 days to finally make this suffering game completely. First of all, the first player to try this suffering game is Li Wen's cousin, Chen Rui. "Boss, turn on the air conditioner first, otherwise we won't talk about it." When Chen Rui was invited by Li Wen to play the game, she refused without hesitation. Such a hot weather! What kind of torture is it without air conditioning? Her hair and her short sleeves were all soaked, sticking sticky to her body, which was very uncomfortable. All right. Li Wen chose to compromise, but in fact he was too hot to bear. "Turn on the air con." He had never found the humming sound from the air conditioner outlet so pleasant. Overcome difficulties with Brother Sledgehammer. "Boss, the name of your game is really..." Chen Rui wanted to complain, but when she thought of her living under the fence, she shut her mouth in an instant. Enter the game. The character in the game is an uncle stuffed in a vat, holding a sledgehammer in his hand. The shape is so weird that she forgot to complain for a while. "Boss, why is this character so strange?" After a while, she raised her head to look at Li Wen standing behind her, and asked curiously. Li Wen didn't answer her directly, "Just talk about it, let's start playing." Even with the cheapest game engine, the game screen produced is very good. Compared with the original game, the picture is indeed much better. Of course, when compared with other games in this world, the picture quality of the game becomes not so good. Chen Rui stopped paying attention to the strange parts of the game characters, and began to learn the game prompts to control the characters. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com. When operating, there is an indescribable jerky feeling. She began to try to use the character to climb mountains. 10 minutes later. "Boss, what kind of game are you playing?" "I'm going crazy." Chen Rui angrily threw the mouse on the computer desk. She glared at Li Wen behind her. At this moment, Li Wen ignored her, as if he was thinking about something. "No, the greasy feeling is a bit worse. Chen Rui, a girl, can climb such a high place. The difficulty needs to be increased." Chen Rui completely collapsed. Overcome difficulties with Brother Sledgehammer. This game is really toxic. He obviously didn't want to play at all, but he couldn't help but click on the game icon and continue the game. Every time I finally climbed to a certain height, because of the strange collision between the sledgehammer in my hand and the big tank under the character, I accidentally fell to the place where the game started. Repeatedly, it really drove her crazy. I don't know if it's an illusion, she feels that the game characters are becoming more and more difficult to control, and the big cylinder under the characters is getting more and more slippery. Finally, Chen Rui smashed a mouse. Her eyes were red, she stood up and rushed towards Li Wen, who was investigating the market. "Cousin, you pervert, you actually play this kind of game for me, I want to fight with you." After 3 days of playing experience, her spirit is about to collapse. Even when she went to bed at night, she dreamed that she was still playing this hellish game to the extreme. All she needs to do is kill the person who started the game, and the world will be clean. How is it? Is the game fun? Li Wen stopped what he was doing, and turned to look at Chen Rui with a smile on his face. No matter how you look at it, I feel that his current expression is very embarrassing. However, Chen Rui still stopped because she saw Li Wen stretching out a hand with 300 yuan bills on it. The resentment that was full just now disappeared immediately after seeing the 300 yuan. She is very poor, and she knows that Li Wen is also very poor. To be able to come up with 300 yuan is already considered a great thing. She licked her lips. "Cousin, is this money for me? Of course, you also know that the company has been very difficult recently. It hasn't paid you wages for 2 months. If you hadn't been with me, I might not be able to survive. 300 yuan is not much, but first take the pocket money. When I make money in the future, I'm sure I'll let you eat and drink spicy food." What Li Wen said was very sincere, but for some reason, Chen Rui always felt that something was wrong. Just when she was about to get 300 yuan, Li Wen's hand suddenly retracted. She knew how it was possible for such a good thing to happen, and she was a little anxious. You, aren't you a liar? You're so touching when you say it. The money will definitely be given to you, but you have to promise me one thing." Li Wen kept looking at her while talking, and kept nodding his head. "This. I know, I'm pretty, and my cousin doesn't have any girlfriends, but we're related by blood, that's not okay." She took 2 steps back, covered her chest with her hands, and looked at Li Wen vigilantly. Her father was Li Wen's uncle. "You girl, what are you talking about? I told you not to watch stick dramas and island country abnormal anime." Li Wen's face was dark. "I just want you to be the anchor." "Is that so? I thought you..." Chen Rui lowered her head in embarrassment, and soon she raised her head again. "But I don't have any talent, and it's useless to have a pretty face." Li Wen was a little speechless. Why is this woman so narcissistic? Chen Rui looks really good. Apart from her flat figure, she can be regarded as a beauty. She is not a mass-market beauty who is casually called on the street, but a real beauty. It's very simple, you don't need any talent, just broadcast the game I made and show your true self. Li Wen stood up and stuffed 300 yuan into Chen Rui's hands. "What? Make me continue to play that underworld game? Also, you want me to sell my soul with these $300? Is your sister like that?" Chen Rui opened Li Wen's hand very angrily, but quietly stuffed 300 yuan into the bag. "Since you don't want to, forget it." Li Wen sighed at Chen Rui. "It seems that this opportunity to become famous is only for me." "Famous?" Chen Rui's eyes lit up. She studied in film and television school at university, originally planned to be an actress. Unexpectedly, the reality is very cruel. Firstly, she has no background, and secondly, she is actually an ordinary beauty. She is really ordinary in the film and television school. After graduating, she has always acted in the role, and the number of appearances can be counted on the fingers. Later, Her parents persuaded her not to be an actress anymore and let her work in Li Wen's company. I didn't expect Li Wen's situation to be similar to hers. She also did a live broadcast before, and no one watched her at all, so she was a little curious, can she become famous by broadcasting a broken game? She couldn't believe it, how could the audience be so bored watching the anchor being abused by the game? However, for some reason, seeing Li Wen's confident appearance, she really couldn't find anything to refute. Or, try it? Anyway, idle is idle. I have been in the company for so long, and I have not made any contribution. She knew very well that the company's last treasure was all on this game. Although she couldn't figure it out, there would be other players playing this kind of game, but let's do my last bit to help Li Wen. Under Li Wen's instructions, Chen Rui registered a live account, Happy Paradise. Li Wen's game company is called Happy Paradise. If it weren't for the troublesome modification of the company's registered name, he would have gone to modify it long ago. The name of the company is very confusing. There is no way to let Chen Rui broadcast live. He simply can't afford the money to advertise the game now. Overcoming difficulties with Sledgehammer, it has been sent to the world's largest PC platform, the STE platform, for review, and it will be officially launched within a week without any accidents. Since there is no money to promote, the game can only rely on the recommendations provided by the platform for free to gain players. This is very inefficient. If you want a big recommendation, you need real money to support it. What he lacks most now is real money. Chen Rui started the live broadcast and clicked on the game. Seriously, this game is really hell. She stabilized her mind, and began to move Brother Sledgehammer up the mountain bit by bit. She was concentrating on it, and she was careful every time she moved the mouse, for fear of making a wrong operation and falling back to the place where the dream started. All her attention was on Brother Sledgehammer, and she didn't even notice that sporadic viewers entered her live broadcast room. What game is this? The picture is so-so, and it doesn't look interesting, let's slip away. I saw a beautiful woman on the cover, I thought it would be a little exciting, that's it. Why should I watch streamers play games live? Can't I play by myself? Miss Sister is very beautiful, come on. Scattered bullet screens drifted past, attracting Chen Rui's attention, and then her Sledgehammer brother returned to the place where the dream began. Ah! She reached out and rubbed her head fiercely, forcing herself to calm down. This, as for what? Didn't it just fall from above? Yu reading www.yuuganshu.com. Miss Sister has such a good temper, she will definitely. Several audience members who were about to leave were startled by Chen Rui's sudden voice. Among them was a little brother who was watching the live broadcast on the subway, and his ears hurt even more from the yelling. He took off the earphones and rubbed the roots of his ears vigorously, which relieved the pain. The little brother put on the earphones again, and he admitted that watching the live broadcast of the game did not seem unacceptable. Looking at the painful struggle of the anchor in the live broadcast, I don't know why there is a tinge of pleasure in my heart. He sent a barrage, the anchor, hurry up and continue playing, why did you stop? He saw several barrages echoing him. It seems that everyone likes to watch beautiful anchors suffer. Perhaps, sometimes, human happiness is based on the pain of others. Chen Rui looked at the audience who entered the live broadcast room, and barely showed a smile that was uglier than crying. Everyone, don't worry, I didn't say no to play, you guys let me take it easy. What? If the donkeys of the production team dare to say what you say, they will be dragged out and slaughtered. Hurry up, keep playing, do you think everyone is idle? Well, I admit that I am really free. When she was live broadcasting before, even if some viewers entered the live broadcast room, they had never interacted with her like this. It seems that live broadcasting this Underworld game can really become famous. Currently in the live broadcast room, 12 viewers are watching. One of the viewers is Li Wen, who is here to support the stage. He looked at Chen Rui's distressed look. I'll make money in the future, let's get more dividends for her, see if I spoil her girl. Chen Rui looked at the audience who had been encouraging her to continue playing on the bullet screen, and her heart was extremely complicated. She gritted her teeth and continued playing. At the beginning, the live broadcast platform will give the anchor a little amount to test. If the quality of the live broadcast content of the anchor is high and the audience is retained, they will increase their efforts to give traffic. Although Li Wen was only doing skin-changing mobile games before crossing, he has an extremely accurate grasp of the krypton points in the hearts of users. Black silk, white silk, long legs, all kinds of girls are made by him in the form of a card pool. So that even if the users are eating steamed buns, they still have to take home black silk, white silk, and long-legged girls. Although he has never been in contact with the live broadcasting industry, he has never seen a pig running or eaten pork. Even in a different world, he believes that the commonalities of everyone's inner preferences will certainly not differ too much. For example, the beautiful anchor plays the Underworld game. This is the traffic password that has been verified by countless anchors in the world before Li Wen traveled. Later, because there were too many imitators, it gradually ceased to be a traffic password. However, there had been no Underworld games in this world before, so Li Wen thought he could try it. Coincidentally, Chen Rui's looks can be regarded as being able to enter the ranks of beauties. With a little filter, she used a little magic to inflate the unremarkable places. It is easy to attract users to pay for the live broadcast room. Instead of spending money to find some unreliable channels to promote the game, it is better to make Chen Rui famous and use her to promote the game. At that time, she will be able to become the queen anchor of the Happy Paradise Underworld game. Although I'm really sorry for such a cute cousin, but for money, it's just a game of hell, so there's nothing to be wronged about. 1 hour live broadcast. Brother Sledgehammer controlled by Chen Rui finally completed the first scene and entered the second scene. The difficulty of the second scene is much more difficult than the first scene. In addition, the two scenes are actually connected, so, once you make a mistake, it is easy to return to the place where the dream started. She has entered the second scene countless times, and she is extremely focused. At this moment, the number of people in the live broadcast room has exceeded 100. And it is still slowly rising. What game does the anchor play? Anchor, are you handicapped? I can pass this game with my eyes closed. Anchor, let me ask weakly, where can I buy this game? The live broadcast room is becoming more and more active, and viewers who are interested in Chen Rui's live broadcast games are gradually appearing. At this time, Li Wen was really relieved, although he knew that the beauty playing the Underworld game was the traffic code. But this is another world. If the audience's tastes are different, the result will naturally be different. Li Wen came to Chen Rui, avoided the camera, lowered his voice, Chen Rui, introduce the game. Although the name of the game is hung on the name of the room in the live broadcast room, many viewers are selective blind, and they can't see it unless they say the name. Due to more and more bullet screens, coupled with Li Wen's harassment, Chen Rui finally made another mistake, and her brother with a sledgehammer landed at high altitude. She, who has never uttered swear words, couldn't help but swear, "Zhou." Seeing brother Sledgehammer returning to the original place, for some reason, she felt very wronged. 1 drop, 2 drops, tears flowed out. Li Wen silently took out another 500 yuan, which was the last cash he had. He put it on Chen Rui's table and left quietly. Chen Rui was sobbing, not forgetting to put $500 into the bag, and then she started to introduce the game. Her voice was a little choked up. This game is a new game that our Happy Paradise Game Company will launch soon. Overcome difficulties with Brother Sledgehammer. The game is very fun. Before she could finish her sentence, the barrage exploded. I believe you, Ghost. You're such a bad anchor. You've cried playing. Is it fun? I think it's quite fun, but it's a little mouse-consuming. Ever since I entered the live broadcast room, I have understood a truth. it turns out that the joys and sorrows between people really do not communicate with each other. Ha 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 ha. Anchor, wait a while before crying, we don't want to see you cry, we just want to see you keep playing the game, don't stop. Overcome difficulties with Brother Sledgehammer. I don't think the difficulties have been overcome. The anchor was overcome first. There are more and more bullet screens. Coupled with the fact that new viewers kept pouring into the live broadcast room, seeing Chen Rui who was sobbing non-stop, he was immediately a little confused. Although the plots of many games nowadays are indeed very touching and full of tears, but the anchor of your game is a man with unhealthy limbs and a sledgehammer. Please tell me where the tears are? Although I don't know why the anchor lady is crying, but it's so pitiful. Anchor, did you make it? When you want to cry, stand on your head immediately. Because then the tears will not flow down. From the moment Chen Rui shed tears, in just a few minutes, the audience in the live broadcast room exceeded 1,000 people. The barrage is getting denser and denser. There are frequent occurrences of great gods from all walks of life. Among them are some anchor agents who specialize in finding novel live broadcast content. The broadcaster's agent, who knows the goods, immediately understood that this was the traffic password, so he quickly notified his own broadcaster, and sent an olive branch to Chen Rui through a private message. Some fast-moving anchor agents have notified the team to start making live scripts. Of course, to achieve the effect of Chen Rui's live broadcast, there is only one catalyst, the game of hell. Overcoming difficulties with Brother Sledgehammer quickly spread among the major game anchors. Now that the live broadcast industry has declined, it is difficult to make any new breakthroughs. If you want to retain the audience, you can only do various things, and the effect is not necessarily good. After all kinds of live broadcast modes have appeared in this world, and the audience has gradually experienced aesthetic fatigue. However, Chen Rui's live broadcast seems to have opened a brand new door. As long as he can squeeze through the door, maybe he can create a live broadcast prosperity again. On this day, Chen Rui streamed the live broadcast for a full 5 hours, cried twice, and the audience reached 10,000 at its peak. For a small anchor who has just started live broadcasting, this can be called a miraculous live broadcast career. What's more, her expression of true feelings was made into an emoticon package by various netizens, and she became popular in no time. In one of the famous scenes, she was sobbing and introduced to the audience. Overcoming difficulties with Brother Sledgehammer is very funny. Chen Rui became popular in a way she never thought of. This kind of feeling made her feel very complicated. She really wanted to be angry, but it wasn't just playing a game and crying about it. After the broadcast, she hadn't recovered from the last tear she shed, sobbing while holding the 800 yuan in her bag. Use your fingers to wipe away the tears that haven't completely dried up on your cheeks. Reading www.yuyuganshu.com started counting the money. Li Wen looked at her, and was speechless for a while. Don't you go to the backstage of your live broadcast? I saw a lot of people buying gifts just now. Maybe you will become a rich woman right away. One word awakens the dreamer. When she was broadcasting live, her attention was always on Brother Sledgehammer, and she didn't notice that there were gifts for her from the audience. She quickly opened the backstage of the live broadcast to take a look, and was stunned. After deducting the share of the live broadcast platform, she actually got a commission of 500 yuan. This is $500. If she has 500 yuan a day, won't she soon become a rich woman? Li Wen also came over, and when he saw her income, he immediately looked envious. Xiaoyui, can you return the 500 I gave you just now? Hey, it's a good idea. Chen Rui quickly put the cash back into her bag, and looked at the income from the backstage of the live broadcast, feeling very happy in her heart. There are still many unread private messages in the background. She clicked on it, and almost all of them were private messages inviting her to join the live broadcast team, and asking about the game Overcoming Difficulties with Brother Sledgehammer. The game has not been officially launched yet, and it is still under review. Currently, only one person in the world, Chen Rui, can do the live broadcast of this game. Brother, what should we do now? Chen Rui looked at Li Wen, and the face that she felt unworthy of punching suddenly became cute, as expected of her cousin by blood. As good as she is, playing this underworld game can really catch fire. You send the game information to those live broadcast teams to spread the reputation of the game. The purpose of Li Wen's letting Chen Rui broadcast live is for publicity. The more anchors play this game, the better the publicity effect will be. Xiao Tian is a game anchor. As the name suggests, she has a sweet appearance and a sweet voice. She has good game skills and has her own understanding of various popular games. She is a skilled streamer who often streams popular games without harm and has a lot of fans. It's just that the traffic of live games is getting worse and worse than before. If she didn't have a huge fan base, she would have stopped cooking a long time ago. Recently, she has been working hard to learn singing and dancing and wants to transform. It's a pity that she has always been a game geek. She has some research on games, but she has no research on singing and dancing at all. Not to mention the pentatonic insufficiency of singing, the dancer's hands can't keep up with the brain, resulting in very uncoordinated movements. Even the difficult movement of jumping out of place and falling shocked the dance teacher. But even if it was so difficult, she didn't give up, she was still practicing hard. It is this kind of persistence that made her grow from an unknown little anchor to the current big anchor. While she was practicing dancing, she received a message from the live broadcast team. Happy Paradise, games in the underworld, beautiful anchors playing games and crying, etc. These are the key points she picked up from the news sent by the live broadcast team. She stopped practicing, turned on the live broadcast platform on her mobile phone and entered the live broadcast room of Happy Paradise. At this time, Chen Rui hadn't downloaded the broadcast yet, her eyes were red, and it seemed that she had just cried, and she was still sniffling from time to time. Xiao Tian soon noticed the game Chen Rui was playing overcome difficulties with Brother Sledgehammer. She has a lot of game experience, and after watching it for a while, she understood the difference in this game. It seems to be a game designed to torture players. Judging from the feel of the anchor's operation, the operation of this game is more difficult than imagined. Wrong. I seem to have missed something. Xiao Tian suddenly stood up from the rest chair. This game has broken the current game circle and created a new genre. At the same time, because the game tortures the players, it can make the live broadcast effect full. Whoever made this game has something. After all, he is a professional game player, so he quickly analyzed a lot of things. She felt that it was necessary to seize the traffic password this time. She contacted the team and began to inquire about the information of Happy Paradise. In the information age, as long as it is not private information, it can be found out very quickly. Live account Happy Paradise is the name of a game production company. This game company has been established for a year, and has released several games. Xiao Tian has no impression of these games and has never played them. She found out all the previous works of Happy Paradise, tried them one by one, and came to a conclusion: garbage games. The painting style of overcoming difficulties with Brother Sledgehammer and the previous games, no. It should be different from the games in the entire game circle. She has an illusion that this game will be popular, and the anchor who plays this game live will also be popular. Today, Chen Rui's live broadcast went well, and he also made a lot of money, so Li Wen finally felt relieved. He is well aware of the effect of the broadcast when the world's anchors first started broadcasting this game. No matter how big or small the anchors were, they all got a lot of traffic at that time. At the same time, the sales of this game were also driven by the anchor's play, and hundreds of thousands of copies were sold, which made the creator a lot of money. All he did was to reproduce the successful case of the previous world. He admitted that he did have the element of gambling. Anyway, it was the last fight. At worst, he would sell the house to pay off the debts, and then return to his hometown to find a job to dawdle. However, he bet right. Although they are two worlds with different levels of science and technology, there are still many things that are common to all human beings. After taking a beautiful bath, Li Wen always turns on the air conditioner when he sleeps at night. "Brother, someone is looking for you, and you are still a beautiful woman." Just when Li Wen was about to fall asleep, Chen Rui knocked on the door and entered his room, holding the company mobile phone in his hand. He jumped up from the bed, ignored Chen Rui who was blindfolded, and answered the phone. "Hi, hello, this is Paradise Game Production Company. I'm Li Wen, the person in charge of the company. May I know who you are?" While talking, he rolled his eyes at Chen Rui. He was wearing underwear. "Hi, I'm Xiao Tian, a game anchor." The voice on the phone was very sweet and sounded very comfortable. "Sorry, you don't mind calling me so late, do you?" I don't mind. While answering the phone, Li Wen kicked Chen Rui out of his bedroom. As we all know, opening the door of an air-conditioned room will waste a lot of air conditioning and consume a lot of electricity. He closed the door and sat on the bed. "May I ask the anchor Xiao Tian what's the matter? It must be very important to call so late." "To tell the truth, Boss Li, I do have a very important matter. I can promote your game for free, but I need to get the game in advance for live broadcast, and don't let other anchors live broadcast this game before the game is officially launched. This request is not too much for Boss Li." This was decided after an afternoon meeting between Xiao Tian and her team. She and her team are very professional in the field of streaming, and quickly understood the importance of streaming this game. The sooner the live broadcast, the greater the harvest. If you enter the venue late, you can only follow the trend. She has been able to get to this point, and her experience and vision are naturally good. "Then let me take the liberty to ask, how many fans do you have, Anchor Xiao Tian?" Li Wen thought about it, but he could also cooperate in this way, and there was no loss to himself. Originally, various game anchors were supposed to promote the game, and it would be beneficial to warm up the game for the anchors in advance. Of course, those small anchors with few fans are fine. It's not that Li Wen doesn't like these small anchors, but rather than cheapening these small anchors, it's better to let Chen Rui live broadcast before the game is released, so that the fat and water don't flow to outsiders. However, if those big anchors are different, they can give the game a very good publicity. As for Chen Rui, he still has a lot of Underworld games in his head. As long as Chen Rui is willing, wanting to be famous is not a matter at all. Now, the most important thing is to promote the game, sell more to accumulate funds, recruit employees, make the game company bigger and stronger, and create greater glories. In the end, I also lived a life of picking up money with sacks. "Hey, doesn't Boss Li know me?" The voice on the other end of the phone seemed suspicious, and Li Wen was a little strange. "Anchor Xiao Tian, are you famous?" "I don't know you." "What's so strange?" Xiao Tian, the #1 sister in the domestic game live broadcasting industry, let alone a domestic game company, even game companies all over the world probably know her. The game industry in this world is different from the world before Li Wen traveled. The connection between domestic games and the world is not a local area network. The same is true for the anchor, and with the AI automatic translation function, UU reading www.uugonshu.com can watch and even communicate with the anchor without barriers regardless of the live broadcast in any language around the world. Xiaoshan's fans are not only domestic fans, but also have a large number of foreign fans. Therefore, she was very surprised that Li Wen didn't know her, and her first reaction was that this man was just pretending. Li Wen didn't know that Xiao Tian was normal. First of all, he was not from this world. Even if he inherited the memory of his predecessor, because his predecessor was always immersed in making games, he was not interested in anything other than games. No, it's not surprising that I don't know me. I have about 70 million fans now, 50 million are domestic fans, and 20 million are foreign fans. The peak number of viewers in the live broadcast is about 1 million. At the peak of Game Live broadcasting, the number of viewers of her live broadcast exceeded 10 million, setting a record high in Game Live broadcast history. Li Wen was a little surprised. He thought the other party was just a small anchor, but he didn't expect it to be a super big fish. Get rich now. Am I the son of the world? The kind of dragon among men who is one in a million? Otherwise, how could luck be so good? Just let Chen Rui live broadcast once to test the waters, and he caught a big fish. It makes me like the protagonists of those web novels before time travel. Such a big anchor, why did he find him? He felt a little strange, it didn't make sense. It is estimated that such an anchor has already made a lot of money. How could he find such a little-known game company? He admitted that there is only one game in this world, Overcoming Difficulties with Brother Sledgehammer Share. But it wouldn't be the case to come to him just for such a game, right? There are weird. After weighing the pros and cons, Li Wen quickly made a decision to sign an agreement with Xiaoshan's live broadcast team tomorrow. There are so many fans of the big anchor to do game promotion, the advantages outweigh the disadvantages. He also discussed with Chen Rui, and he could see that although Chen Rui nodded in agreement, her eyes were somewhat disappointed. However, after he promised to make money and invest in movies and TV for Chen Rui was as happy as a child, and there was no disappointment between his brows. A night without words. The next day, Li Wen and Xiaoshan's live broadcast team successfully signed an agreement in the appointed cafe, and at the same time handed over the live broadcast right before the game's release to Xiaoshan's live broadcast team. During the signing of the agreement, he received countless calls from anchors, all of whom wanted to live broadcast Overcoming Difficulties with Brother Sledgehammer. It seems that many sharp-eyed anchors have noticed the value that this game brings to today's game live broadcast. It's a pity that none of the anchors who called here has any cards for Xiao Tian. After all, it is quite rare for a big anchor with tens of millions of fans. After returning home, Li Wen continued to investigate the market, this time to set a suitable price for the game. It can make more players buy without feeling distressed, and it can make him earn a fortune. Game pricing is a science. Too high a price will dissuade many players. After all, the production cost of his game is not too high, and more costs are labor costs. If the price is too low, it will appear that the game has no B standard and is very cheap. After studying for a while, Li Wen finally set the price at 50 yuan. The original is priced at $10. Excluding the platform share, selling a game can earn about 30 yuan. If you can sell 100,000 copies, you can earn more than 3 million yuan, and you can still earn more than 2 million yuan after paying taxes. More than 2 million yuan is only a drop in the bucket for a normally functioning game company, but it can make him stand up in the game industry again. Of course, the premise is that the game can meet his expectations and sell 100,000 copies. If the anchors broadcast this Underworld game live and produce a full score program effect, the sales of the game should not be bad. This kind of pure Underworld game is destined to be impossible for the game to explode, and sell tens of millions or even hundreds of millions of sales like those masterpieces. There is no piracy in the overhead world, and the sales of games have skyrocketed many times compared to reality. Selling millions of copies is already the limit. Coupled with the fact that the Underworld game appeared for the first time in this world, many players have never experienced it at all, so it is easy to be persuaded by the difficulty, and the sales of this game will not be too high. But because the type of game is different from all games in this world, there will definitely be players who are willing to spend their wallets to buy games. Of course, the final result can only be determined by the sales after the game is launched. Li Wen can only make a simple current world sales forecast based on the sales volume of this game in the previous world. I hope that there is not much deviation from my expected sales volume. The appeal of Xiaoshan's game live broadcast is indeed not comparable to that of a newcomer anchor like Chen Rui. In just 3 days of live broadcast, players who are concerned about the changes in the game market almost know the game of overcoming difficulties with Brother Sledgehammer. Many game websites have also begun to dig deep into game information. Within 3 days, Li Wen received calls from many game websites. Although this is just an independent game with a low cost, its underworld setting makes it stand out among all the games currently on the market and is unique. At the same time, because of the explosive effect of Xiaoshan's live broadcast, the popularity of the game has continued to soar. Some well-known game producers said that they were inspired by overcoming difficulties with Brother Sledgehammer and prepared to develop new games. Happy Paradise, Li Wen, these 2 words gradually appeared in the players' sites. Of course, some black spots still appeared. The company's previous games were picked up by the players, and they were sprayed badly. Although they were sprayed, they brought some sales. This is an unexpected reward. Li Wen said that if you want to spray, spray hard, the harder you spray, the better. The effect of Xiaoshan's live broadcast brought her popularity back to the peak, and it is even expected to break the record of 20 million viewers watching online at the same time. The rhythm of the live broadcast designed by a professional team has the audience in control. The live broadcast industry seems to have begun its second spring. And all this is because of a game with extremely high difficulty and very exciting mentality to overcome difficulties with Brother Sledgehammer. Tenki Games, Wanjai Games, Marabi Games, and other well-known domestic game manufacturers are throwing olive branches to Li Wen. The domestic game company in this world is completely different from the domestic game company before he traveled. Because domestic games are in line with the world, domestic game companies can only produce high-quality games if they want to survive. And the country in this world has not experienced the deformed game market at the beginning, so it has not spawned all kinds of Krypton Gold online games. Of course, there are also some companies that make Krypton Gold online games and skin-changing mobile games, but players simply don't buy it. If the quality of the game cannot keep up, it will soon be abandoned by players. Therefore, the quality of the games produced by these domestic game manufacturers is first class in the world. Especially some high-quality martial arts games are sought after by players all over the world. Because of the popularity of martial arts games, the nearby Bangsa Kingdom also started to produce martial arts games, and they even boasted that martial arts were derived from their Bangsa Kingdom. However, the game company in Bangsa country is like a clown, and the martial arts games they make are completely different. They don't know what kind of people can't help themselves in the rivers and lakes. Domestic martial arts games belong to one of the 3 major types in the game industry, occupying a very important weight in the world game industry. If Li Wen was still his predecessor, he probably would not refuse the invitation from a major domestic game company. But now Li Wen is tactfully playing Tai Chi with the big factories, neither refusing nor agreeing. Wait until the sales of the game come out. If it sells well, it means that the Underworld game also has an audience in this world. If the sales are not good, then he will go to these big factories to hang out. He doesn't only have the Underworld game in his head. Isn't it just a martial arts game? The Condor Shooting Trilogy, the 8 parts of the Heavenly Dragon, the Passionate Swordsman and the Ruthless Sword, etc. Just take out any one of the martial arts novels as a script, and a martial arts game with a grand background will come out. Anyway, don't worry. A week later, the game on the STE game platform has passed the review and can be launched at any time. The employees of the domestic STE game platform also approached Li Wen to discuss the promotion plan. Of course it's free. The condition is to let the STE game platform monopolize the game for a limited time for 1 month. The domestic employees of other game platforms have looked for him during this week. The conditions discussed are the same as the STE game platform, but they all have the same condition, that is, limited time exclusive. In the end, he chose the STE platform for the simple reason that the STE platform is the platform with the most players on the PC, computer platform. Overcoming difficulties with Brother Sledgehammer officially announced the launch time on the STE platform. Not only the publicity of Xiaotian, but also the recommendation of the STE platform. This game has attracted the attention of countless players before it was released. If it were to be put in the world before Li Wen traveled, this game would not have such treatment. But the world is different now. This is the only Underworld game in the world, and it is an epoch-making game that breaks the status quo of the game. It can be said that game companies all over the world are paying attention to overcoming difficulties with Brother Sledgehammer. If the game can set off a frenzy of players buying and playing, then the big game manufacturers will spend money to set up a development department dedicated to researching Underworld games. Relying on the strength of the big factory, it is very easy to make all kinds of Underworld games. Li Wen, the protagonist, is lying on the sofa at the moment, eating grapes, blowing on the air conditioner. Everything is so relaxed and comfortable. Grape tastes sweet. Brother, are you not in a hurry? The game will be officially launched at 12 o'clock, and there is still an hour. Chen Rui threw a grape into her mouth. The last time she ate fruit was a long time ago. Don't worry, the promotion of the game has completely exceeded my expectations, but this is a good thing. Now we just have to wait. It is impossible for Li Wen to say that he is not nervous. Yu reading www.yuyugonshu.com. Although the game is huge now, this is not an ordinary game, but a game of the Underworld. Very few players actually buy the game. But he didn't show his nervousness. The promotion of the game this time was something he hadn't expected, and everything went very smoothly, so smooth that he couldn't believe it. It's as if there is a hand in the dark, pushing him forward all the time, thinking carefully. Throwing those unrealistic thoughts out of his head, he began to seriously think about the future. He has a characteristic, that is, he will consider the worst result first in everything he does. The worst result now is nothing more than the sudden death of the game. Da Chang no longer extends an olive branch like him. He sells his house and goes home to raise pigs. If you think about it carefully, the worst result is nothing. If it fails, the only regret is that you can't pick up money with sacks like other big game companies. Brother, tell me something from the bottom of your heart, Chen Rui said with a straight face. Ever since Li Wen promised to make a movie for her, she has called each other sweetly. Can this game make the company start? Come back to life? When she first joined the company, in order not to let other employees know about the relationship between the two, she kept calling him Boss Li Wen, and she got used to it. I seldom call him Cousin Li Wen anymore. It's different now. She found that Li Wen, this cousin, seemed to be a different person recently. He seemed to have a new temperament and confidence that he didn't have before. From the inside out, no matter what you do, there is a kind of self-confidence in strategizing. Since my cousin tore up the game plan that I designed for more than half a month. It seems that from that moment on, my cousin changed. 3 Moms is a well-known game website in China, which contains guides for popular games, game mods, and all other game-related content. There is also a forum in the website, and there will be a dedicated section for popular games. Among them, overcome difficulties with Brother Sledgehammer because of the popularity brought by Xiaoshan's live broadcast. The website has also set up an independent page for it. Countless players discuss the game in it. Stunned. A game dedicated to abusing players is so popular. Do you feel that Xiaoshan's skills are getting more and more rubbish? Such a simple game has never been cleared. I can pass it with my feet. One thing to say, after the launch of Overcoming Difficulties with Brother Sledgehammer, will the old buddies pay for a copy to torture themselves? There are more and more posts on the game version, and its popularity is also getting higher and higher. Among the topics discussed by players, the game price is the most concerned. After all, from the live broadcast, this is a very ordinary indie game. The graphics are not exquisite, and there is nothing to brag about except for the novel gameplay. Watching live broadcasts and playing in person is a completely different experience. Watching the live broadcast, I don't feel how difficult the game is. Only after I personally experience it, I will play it, but the game is not yet online. Therefore, most of the discussions among players in the forum are not about operational issues such as whether the game will be difficult to dissuade or not. It's more a matter of price. The price of high-cost 3A masterpieces produced by well-known manufacturers is generally above 400 yuan. The price of medium-cost games made by the second-tier manufacturers is generally between 300,000 400 yuan. The price of games made by general manufacturers is between 200,000 300 yuan. The pricing of independent games is between 1,200 yuan. At present, the more famous independent games on the market are all floating around 100 yuan, but the quality of these independent games is very high, which is better than the games produced by some ordinary game manufacturers. The plot, picture quality, and rhythm are all perfect. And the indie game Brother Sledgehammer Overcome Difficulties Together barely passes the screen, but the gameplay is monotonous and there is no plot support, so as long as the price is set high, it will definitely die violently. But when you think about the popularity of games today, no independent game can match it, and even the popularity is close to the 3A masterpieces of well-known manufacturers. It is difficult for players to guess the real price of the game, so they can only discuss it in the forum. After all, the style of the game Overcoming Difficulties with Brother Sledgehammer is different from all games on the market, so it is normal for players to be interested. Especially after the live broadcast of the anchor, some technical players are eager to move. Conquering difficult games is the motivation for this group of players to play games. They tend to be interested in some games with higher difficulty. However, the games in this world are all developed for the sake of being cool, and it is unlikely that there will be games that are too difficult. By the way, games in this world are the same as Soul games, there is no choice of difficulty. However, in terms of difficulty, it is different from Soul games, because all the games in this world are in simple mode. After all, the purpose of the game from the very beginning is to make the players feel good. There will be almost no difficult enemies. All the way is to cut melons and vegetables, even the boss is also very simple. The boss is very powerful, and the moves are gorgeous, but the routine is simple and clear, without any complicated changes. Most players can easily beat it, and even some players who are good at it can still see it for the first time without getting hurt. Therefore, in order to add a little difficulty to themselves when playing games, these players often make game videos without injuries, speed runs without using character skills, etc. to prove their operating skills. Skilled players are looking forward to overcoming difficulties with Brother Sledgehammer very much, but just watching the live broadcast makes them feel a little itchy, and they can't wait to play this game in person. Today, August 20, 2022. Game Science has released the latest plot of Black Wukong and the demo of NVIDIA RTX Light Chasing 4K. Judging from the currently released real machine, the game is getting more and more perfect, and the future can be expected. The author's wallet is ready, want to play now. Nay, he can only wait for the game to go online, while bragging with other players on the exclusive forum page of Brother Sledgehammer, while paying attention to the countdown to unlocking the game on the STE platform. The operation of this series is as if this game is a long-awaited 3A masterpiece from a major manufacturer. So confused. At noon. Overcoming Difficulties with Brother Sledgehammer on the STE platform is officially launched. There is no pre-order for the game, you can only buy it after it goes online. The price of 50 yuan makes all players feel their conscience. For a while, the voice of the forum was much less, and most players had already bought the game and started playing. Games of this era no longer need to be downloaded to the player's own computer. The cloud technology is very advanced, and you can play it after you buy it, without any loss in picture quality and delay. Of course, high image quality also requires players to have powerful configurations. This is not the cloud game that Lee went raveled before. It's just putting the game capacity on the cloud server. Of course, it is very simple for this world to make cloud games with lossless picture quality and low latency. However, the industry chain around the game involves too much. Doing so will offend a large number of manufacturers of various hardware and game consoles, and the gains outweigh the losses. After all, game production not only requires a powerful game engine, but also requires a high hardware configuration. Except for Li Wen's current independent game, a large-scale 3A produced game requires the world's top hardware configuration to be able to make it. If you only use Li Wen's current configuration to make 3A games, even if you do a real machine simulation of a high-end engine, it is estimated that the computer will run and smoke. There are too many interests involved in the game industry. Li Wen's home. Li Wen was still lying on the sofa with GEU, holding the remote control in his hand and watching movies in this world. That picture, that special effect, awesome. The movie he watched was a movie based on the myth of the Chinese classic of Mountains and Seas. It tells how a little fairy in the Book of Mountains and Seas broke through the secret of becoming a fairy that the immortals have been hiding all the time by chance and coincidence. Then, the little goblin fights against the immortals, and at the same time awakens other goblins who still want to become immortals to resist the fairy. The plot twists and turns, the special effects are realistic, and every actor's acting skills are online, so he enjoys watching it. If this movie was shown in the world before he traveled, the box office would explode immediately. However, he saw on a certain rating that the rating of this movie was only a little over 5 points, which was a garbage movie that failed. Most of the comments are bad comments about the exaggerated acting skills of movie actors, and the special effects are the same as those of a 50-cent special effect. However, in his opinion, the filming of this movie is really good. Both the acting skills of the actors and the special effects are top-notch. Is the audience in this world appreciating too much? Or is it simply that he has never seen anything in the market? In short, Yu reading www.yuuganshu.com made him a little skeptical about life, and originally planned to make money in the future and invest in it himself, and then make some movies to make money. He quickly dismissed the idea. Let's play games. Brother, look at how many games have been sold. Chen Rui pointed at the screen with excitement. Don't worry, wait a while, it is estimated that half of the players will refund. Li Wen didn't turn his head back. This game is too much of the underworld. Let alone this player world that has not been trained in the underworld game, even in his previous world, there are many players who follow suit and buy and get refunded in the end. What? Chen Rui stood up, ran to Li Wen to block the TV, her face was full of doubts. Why do players refund money? What kind of feeling do you think you have when you play the game? Li Wen changed his posture, moved his butt, and sat on the other side to continue watching TV. Chen Rui's small face became cloudy, as if recalling some bad memories. Look, even you, an internal employee of the company, has such a big shadow on the game, let alone other players who follow suit and buy the game. Li Wen paused, but don't worry, there will still be some players who like to be abused. The only question is how many gamers out there enjoy masochism. If it weren't for his limited funds and more money, he wouldn't have chosen this game. For example, only the highest difficulty Resident Evil is better than this game. It's a pity that he can't make games that require very complicated data support. Li Wen is very calm. He is very clear about the advantages and disadvantages of the game overcoming difficulties with Brother Sledgehammer in this world. To be honest, he is very satisfied to be able to get such publicity, and he can also have a cooperative relationship with anchors like Xiao Tian. Xiao Tian can be found for publicity for future Underworld games. Isn't this even saving the publicity fee? Of course, it is impossible for the game promotion to be only placed on the anchor. The promotion and sales of the game are directly linked. Even the world-renowned game manufacturers are not ambiguous in the announcement of the game. Various promotional advertisements will warm up the game and stir up the popularity of the game before it is released. The cost of publicity and use is comparable to the cost of game development. If the game doesn't make any money when it's released at the beginning, by the time players slowly discover the game company will have gone bankrupt. The return of funds is very important for game companies. Therefore, the announcement of the game is more important than the quality of the game itself. Li Wen was engaged in the game industry before time travel, and he knew very well that whether a game could sell or not depends on the promotion. Especially in the mobile game industry, publicity is the most important thing. Generally speaking, the publicity cost of a mobile game is dozens of times the development cost. After all, the competitiveness of mobile games is too great. The situation of console games is much better. There are only a few masterpieces every year, and players in the general circle can know about them. So the situation is better than mobile games. However, in this world it is different. Because of the powerful game engine, 3A masterpieces have a relatively short development cycle. A well-known game manufacturer can produce 20 to 30 3A masterpieces a year. If it weren't for cost risks and other issues, this number would have to be doubled several times. All game companies are very productive, producing tens of thousands of masterpieces a year. If you want to stand out among so many homogeneous works, the promotion of the game is very critical. All kinds of mobile phone advertisement pop-up windows, as well as TV advertisements and web advertisements, are almost all promotional advertisements of various masterpieces. It's almost like replacing those 999 junk mobile game advertisements that Li Wen used to have in the world with 3A masterpiece advertisements. The cost of a high-quality game is very high. However, the rewards are also very rich. As long as there are no hard mistakes, the sales of high-quality games from major manufacturers will basically reach more than 100 million copies. That's quite an impressive sales volume. You must know that Li Wen once gave him the game of AI5. From the PS3 era to the current PS5 era, it has sold less than 200 million sales in so many years. This is also the most important reason why the world's major game manufacturers are trying their best to make 3A games. And it will continue to improve the quality of the game to maintain its competitiveness. The game industry is quite introverted. On the first day of release, the game Overcoming Difficulties with Brother Sledgehammer sold as many as 150,000 copies. This is a result that Li Wen did not expect. The sales volume is too strong. And with a refund rate of 70%, it can still sell so well. The game is on the STE platform and is particularly well received. The remaining players appreciate this difficult game very much. However, outside of the STE platform, games on other forums and post bars received rave reviews. All are some players who spray games against humanity. Li Wen expressed that he had no turmoil in his heart, and even wanted to light a cigarette. He had long expected that after the game was released, it would be sprayed by countless players. He even predicted that the sales of the game on the first day would not exceed 10,000 copies at most. Didn't expect it to sell so fast. He was very cool, but other manufacturers who have been paying attention to this game and various game media began to sing bad news. After all, with the game being so popular, the sales volume on the first day was only 150,000 copies. And the refund rate is as high as 70%. The game producer who once paid attention to Overcoming Difficulties with Brother Sledgehammer issued a statement, saying that this game inspired him as a piece of shit, and he will never use it in his life. Those big domestic manufacturers who have thrown olive branches at him have also begun to euphemistically express that what they said before does not count. There are also all kinds of bad-mouthing players on the forum, belittling Overcoming Difficulties with Brother Sledgehammer to nothing. There are negative news about Overcoming Difficulties with Brother Sledgehammer everywhere. Of course, there are positive news, but right now it only exists in a small circle, a circle of players who like difficult games. They praised the game, the company that made it, and Li Wen. By the way, I also scolded other game manufacturers for making some unchallenging games to please most players. Xiao Tian also contacted Li Wen the next day. She comforted Li Wen that one failure does not mean anything. She will still promote Li Wen for free for the next game. Brother, get over it together, such a game of the underworld. A week later, the sales volume of Overcoming Difficulties with Big Hammer Brother reached 500,000 copies, far exceeding Li Wen's expectations. But the popularity of the game has not declined, and is still rising. These are all because the effects of the major anchors' live broadcasts of game abuse programs are full. It is entirely due to the popularity brought by the live broadcasts of various anchors. UU reading www.uuganshu.com. It's just that after the game's sales reach 500,000 copies, it's hard to sell it. The audience is there, and it is normal if it cannot be sold. If it were replaced with another game of the underworld with a little more depth, the sales would definitely exceed 500,000 copies. Anyway, Li Wen made a lot of money this time. Except for Li Wen and Chen Rui, no one knows that the production cost of this game is only 1,000 yuan. Even if Li Wen's labor costs are included, let's add another 1,000 yuan, the cost is only 2,000 yuan. Then, the game sold more than 500,000 copies. Selling a game for 50 soft sister coins, deducting the platform share, can earn 35 soft sister coins. After deducting taxes, his net profit was more than 10 million yuan. In the past few days, he just woke up laughing while lying in bed. Okay? After paying off the company's previous arrears, re-renting an office building as an office and buying equipment, and preparing to recruit staff salaries, Chen Rui and Li Wen's own bonuses and other miscellaneous expenses have been deducted. There are more than 2 million left in the company's books. Get rich. In the past, although the turnover of mobile games was much higher than this. However, the money is not his. He's just a part-time programmer. This is the first time he has earned money with his own strength. As expected, it's a world that carries sacks to make money. He is looking forward more and more to the second game developed after recruiting all the employees and investing a fixed cost. This time, the game he made is no longer purely for torturing players, but a game with a certain depth. Of course, it's still a game of the underworld. Li Wen is sitting in the office. Although the current office is very simple, but the company has finally been brought back to life, and I am quite happy in my heart. Now the company's most lacking is no longer money, but talents. Even if there is a game that was popular all over the internet before, it is still difficult to recruit talents. He had already posted the recruitment information, and there were very few employees who called for interviews, and these employees who came to apply for the job knew nothing, just like a joke. The next game that Li Wen is going to make is unlikely to be made by one person, and the company has more than 2 million in the book, and he is going to invest all of it in the new game. Judging from the sales of Brother Sledgehammer's game, he confirmed one thing. There are not a lot of Shaking M players in this world. If it wasn't because Brother Sledgehammer was too much of a ghost, he was very persuasive, otherwise it would have been sold out according to the scale of the announcement. The next game, the game he made, is also a serious underworld game, but the game will not disgust the player, it will just make the player fear from the bottom of his heart. The game is the famous Escape. The investment of more than 2 million yuan is enough to improve the game screen to the level of real ones. In addition, this is a game where the characters do not have any combat system, so there is no need to spend a lot of money on the combat system and various combat values. It is quite perfect just to restore the original work, and there is no need for any changes. Escape is a game about a piece of information provided by independent journalist Miles Upshur based on an anonymous intelligence source. He drove to Jushan Mental Hospital, wanting to investigate the truth of the incident hidden behind this hospital. When he breaks in, he finds that these events are repeatedly wandering between science, religion, nature, and other things that are completely unknown. With the deepening of the investigation, he gradually discovered various bizarre and terrifying incidents that had occurred in the Jushin mental hospital. The most frightening thing is that he will also become the protagonist of the horror event. Only escape is hope. This is a very scary game. The protagonist is a reporter who has no power to fight back and can only be beaten. There are no lights in most areas of the Jushin mental hospital, and the photos are dark. Players can only rely on the night mode of the camera to see the surrounding environment clearly. We all know that the camera consumes a lot of power when the night mode is turned on. If the collected batteries are used up, players can only fumble and play in a dark environment where they can't see their fingers. However, the protagonist is not the only one in this dark mental hospital. There is also a large group of mentally ill patients who crazily attack the protagonist. This game is very scary. At the beginning, Li Wen played it repeatedly for a long time, and finally passed the level. He was either afraid, or he panicked while playing. This escape game enhances the sense of substitution for the first-person perspective. Many players bought the game, and then they really didn't have the courage to open it and play through it. Later, the second part was released, and the sales volume was very good, but the customs clearance rate was very gratifying. There is no disgusting player setting in the game, it just uses another way to make players painful. Li Wen, who was one of the victims at the beginning, was naturally very terrified of how terrible this game was. Now, traveling to this world, it is really too stingy not to use it to make other players happy. This time he spent 500,000 yuan to buy a game engine, which is very suitable for making horror games. Of course, there are also horror games in this world. Unfortunately, apart from making monsters disgusting, all horror games are essentially cool games like other games. After Brother Sledgehammer's sales started to fail, Li Wen specially bought several horror games with high player ratings to prepare for the development of Escape. However, these horror games did not bring him any horror at all, and even made him take off so much fun playing. Only after clearing the level did he think about what his purpose for playing these horror games was. Now the popularity of Sledgehammer's game is getting lower and lower, and the company's name and his name are gradually forgotten by the players. Although the recruitment information has been sent out, no talent has come to apply for it. He is very sorry, but he still has a way to recruit talent. The games he made are incompatible with this world and are unique. If you want to recruit people, you only need to make a big move. Li Wen stayed up all night and worked overtime. It took him 3 days to produce a video of the real machine using the newly purchased game engine. The video lasted about 8 minutes. This is not a real machine play operation, because he really cannot complete such a large amount of work by himself. The whole video is a live video from the simulation run of the engine system. This is not to promote the game Escape, it's just a recruitment video. Using actual machine videos to attract talents to join, this model was very common in Li Wen's previous life, but it doesn't seem to be in this world yet. A game company in this world is often established by a group of like-minded friends who are familiar with each other. If the game sells well and becomes famous, the game company can naturally attract talents to join. If the game dies suddenly, then there is only one fate waiting for the game company in the end. Yu reading www.yuuganshu.com Bankruptcy. Li Wen's predecessor was a game company that he co-founded with a group of like-minded friends. However, his friends had already left after the failure of the first game, leaving only Li Wen's predecessor struggling to support him. Hire a group of employees who are waiting to die at a price higher than the average market price, and then, no more. Those employees who were eating and waiting to die before also contacted Li Wen, wanting to return to the company to work, but he refused them all. Of course, those friends who left after the failure of the first game also approached him and wanted to continue to cooperate. He also rejected them all. Although Brother Sledgehammer may be regarded as a game whose sales have exploded in the eyes of other people, in Li Wen's eyes, this is an attempt, and the result of the attempt made him very satisfied, far exceeding expectations. There are still many Underworld games in his head. According to Brother Sledgehammer, there are still some players in this world who have the miss-shaking attribute. It is only necessary to catch this part of the players, then he can also carry money in sacks like other big players. Then, why let those so-called friends who once abandoned his predecessor get a piece of the pie? For the money that was distributed, he packaged it into bonuses and awarded them to outstanding employees. Isn't it good? Therefore, he will absolutely not let any friend from his predecessor enter the arena now. If these friends could share the joys and sorrows with their predecessors, the game company would not be on the verge of bankruptcy, and Li Wen would not have to sell the house to pay off the debt. He put the escape recording video on the video website. The title of the video, Happy Paradise's latest game development video. This video has only one purpose: recruit people. Chen Rui won a bonus of 100,000 yuan, and she burst into tears. Although I know that Li Wen has indeed made some money by relying on the game of Brother Sledgehammer, but giving her a bonus of 100,000 yuan in such a wealthy manner was completely unexpected to her. The game was completely independently produced by Li Wen. She just played the game live for 5 hours. She was really ashamed to give her such a large sum of money for such a trivial help. She had planned to return it to Li Wen, and only needed to repay her salary. However, Li Wen did not accept her refund. Instead, he told her that after the company made more and more money, it would give her more and more bonuses at that time, so that she could set her sights higher. It's only $100,000. But, this is 100,000 yuan. It's not a virtual world where everyone on a short video platform earns $1 million a year, and anyone interviewed on the street scoffs at $1 million. This is the real world. The real world where the average salary of people across the country is less than 10,000 yuan. 100,000 yuan is already equivalent to the wages of ordinary people working for a year. With so much money, she cautiously said to Li Wen, "Brother, look, I don't feel safe holding so much money, why don't you beat me up?" When she said this, Li Wen regarded her as a fool. Well, happiness came so suddenly. She suddenly had 100,000 yuan. She was a little at a loss and wanted to buy everything, but felt that buying would be a waste, and she was in a very entangled state. She is a person who doesn't like to trouble her parents. After graduating from Film and Television University, she never asked her family for a penny to support herself. If it wasn't for the fact that she couldn't get along in the film and television industry, she wouldn't have come to Li Wen's company. Although she doesn't know anything about games, she has been learning relevant knowledge, and she is qualified as Li Wen's assistant during her tenure. Unfortunately, in the 3rd month of her arrival, Li Wen's company even quit the office space, and other employees also dismissed. She had a good relationship with Li Wen since she was a child, so when she saw that Li Wen didn't intend to give up and continued to make games, she stayed. They also returned all the compensation that Li Wen had prepared for her. Finally, now that Li Wen's game has finally been sold, she is also very happy. She is sincerely happy for Li Wen's success, not because of the 100,000 yuan, well, maybe it has a little relationship with the 100,000 yuan, but it's just a billion points. In the end, she gave 100,000 yuan to her parents, and asked her parents to save it for her, because she was afraid that she couldn't help spending money indiscriminately. The 100,000 yuan has a very high commemorative significance. This is the first time she has received such a generous bonus. She wants to keep the 100,000 yuan forever. At present, there are only 2 people in the whole company, Chen Rui and Li Wen. Chen Rui knows that Li Wen is currently recruiting employees, and she is responsible for screening out those applicants who don't understand anything. She's been doing this for the last few days, very annoyed. Those applicants are all kinds of talents, but there are no game-related talents, which is very fascinating. Work is tedious, looking at applicants' resumes every day. Although boring, she lived a very fulfilling life. Sometimes I will receive a private message from Xiao Tian, inviting her to join Xiaoshan's live broadcast team. She didn't agree. Ever since Li Wen promised her to invest in movies and TV shows for her to make money, she decided not to step into the live broadcast circle. She didn't want to be an anchor. Her dream had always been to become an actor. If the previous Li Wen had given her such a promise, she would never have believed it. But now, for some reason, she firmly believes that Li Wen will fulfill the promise he made to her. There were very few applicants who submitted resumes to the company before, but for some reason today, people have been sending resumes to the company since they started working. Although most of them are all kinds of candidates who have nothing to do with the game industry. But there are also some candidates who are actually engaged in the game industry. Seeing that the company finally had a serious candidate's resume, she was relieved and became happier. It took a whole morning to finally sort out the resumes of the candidates related to the game industry and send them to Li Wen. There were 23 applicants, and she wrote down everyone's name. Maybe some of these applicants would become her colleagues in the future. Brother, look, the emails are all applicants I sorted out. Chen Rui walked into Li Wen's office without knocking, her face full of excitement. Well, did I tell you before, the first thing to enter the office is to knock on the door. Li Wen looked at Chen Rui helplessly. I said it, I forgot. Chen Rui stuck out her tongue. Since the company started recruiting employees, it has been a whole week since no real relevant talents have sent their resumes. This sudden arrival of so many applicants really made her overjoyed. Since you forgot, give Chong Chong a memory, deduct 500. After Li Wen finished speaking, he moved his gaze to the display screen and clicked on the internal email sent by Chen Rui. You cheapskate, you always remember the $500. When Chen Rui heard about the deductions, she immediately became anxious. She seemed to think of something, and suddenly realized that Li Wen had given her 500 yuan during her live broadcast before. Later, because the audience swiped some gifts in that live broadcast, she earned another 500 yuan. The guy regretted it when he saw it, and wanted to get back the 500 yuan. Unexpectedly, I remembered today. Humph, that's 500 Ruan-mi coins. Didn't you make money from the live broadcast? Isn't it normal to return it to me? Li Wen didn't raise his head. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com carefully looked at the resumes of each applicant. Brother, your personality is too distorted, be careful you can't find a girlfriend, Chen Rui left Li Wen's office angrily. She was sitting at her desk, with her arms folded, her little face was puffy and cute. I don't know whether my cousin is generous or stingy. She obviously gave her a bonus of 100,000 yuan, but she didn't expect to remember the 500 yuan she was given at that time. This character is really twisted. No wonder I can't find a girlfriend. Snort. Ding dong. The notification sound of the mobile phone brought Chen Rui's attention back to reality. She picked up her phone, and it was a message from Xiao Tian. Xiao Rui, has your company developed any new games? It looks pretty good. New game? When? Chen Rui said that she had no idea. Sister Xiao Tian, our company is still recruiting employees, and there is no new game project approved. After the editing message was sent, it didn't take long for the other party to reply to the message. Okay, Xiao Rui, after your company has a new game project, you must let me know as soon as possible. She hesitated for a moment. Sister Xiao Tian, the establishment of a new game project is a company secret, so it's not good to tell you. To be honest, she was a little confused by the message from Xiao Tian. Maybe, the cousin did something that she didn't know about? Forget it, anyway, as long as she does her job well, she will listen to her cousin in everything. On the other side, Xiao Tian put down her phone and watched Li Wen's new game demonstration video on the video website. The name of the new game was not announced. But this real machine video has attracted the attention of many players. Another game with a difference? In the live video of the game, the main perspective is a recorded image. The environment in the video is extremely dark, and the surrounding environment can only be barely seen by relying on the night vision mode. The whole video reveals a strange atmosphere. From time to time, there will be a low voice that can't be heard clearly. The voice is very depressing. Seems to be praying? Or maybe cursing something. From time to time, the photographer's nervous panting sound will appear, which makes the players watching the video nervous. In the video, the photographer seems to be in a hospital, but it is an abandoned hospital. The walls of the ward were smeared with red paint everywhere, and there were sentences of gibberish with ill-conceived structures and meanings written on them. When the camera started to smear one of the sentences for a close-up, the photographer seemed to realize something, and started talking to himself in a low voice. The talking to himself was very low, and only blood, gods, demons, etc. could be heard from the video and audio. Wait for words. At this moment, the screen suddenly began to shake, and the photographer seemed to realize something and wanted to turn his head, but was thrown away by a huge force. The camera also fell to the ground at this moment. At the beginning of the shot, no one appeared, until the sound of begging for mercy sounded more and more clearly. Two figures appeared in front of the camera. The photographer was caught in the head by a turtle man, and he struggled in pain, but it was a pity that he couldn't get rid of the shackles of the strong man. The strong man swung his other hand and slammed it at the photographer. That hand seemed to be holding a sledgehammer, and the sledgehammer hit the photographer's head with precision. Puff blood splatter blocks the shot. At the end of the video, the official website of Happy Paradise pops up, as well as an advertisement for recruiting talents. After watching the whole video, Xiaotian didn't come to her senses for a long time. Is this a horror game? Aren't horror games full of disgusting monsters, and then the protagonist goes up and it's over? How can it be like a horror movie? No, the horror of this video is scarier than many horror movies. Just a game recording video gave her a series of goosebumps. She sent a message to ask about the specific situation of Li Wengzhen's game, and then the other party only replied with a smiley expression and said nothing. She shifted her target to ask Chen Rui, but Chen Rui was as tight-lipped as Li Wen, and did not disclose any information to her. Judging from the recruitment information at the end of the video, this is definitely a new game. Brother Sledgehammer has been online for 3 weeks now. And she has been live broadcasting for a month, and her popularity is gradually decreasing, and the popularity of the game is gradually sluggish. The effect of the live broadcast was getting worse and worse, and she had to rebroadcast other games to keep the number of live broadcasts online. But then it's back to the beginning. Although Li Wen's Big Hammer failed in sales, it did save the game live broadcasting industry. It almost made her break through the highest number of online live broadcast viewers previously set when the game live broadcast was the hottest. This new game, you can tell from the video that it is another game that abuses players. It's just different from the purely disgusting one of Brother Sledgehammer, although I don't know exactly what the game mode is. But it also made her feel like a cat scratching her heart, and now she wants to play games. She is the first player in the world to clear Brother Sledgehammer, which is recorded on the leaderboard. It was also after passing the level step by step with patience that she gained an unprecedented sense of exhilaration and accomplishment in the moment of clearing the game. She has played games before, and no game has ever given her such an experience after clearing the level. She became a fan of Happy Paradise and Li Wen. She also wants to continue to experience higher difficulty and more challenging games. I used to play games that were okay, but now it's like chewing wax, and the live broadcast effect is far inferior to Brother Sledgehammer. A visible decline in her popularity. Since yesterday, she has been practicing singing and dancing again, and the transformation seems to have been doomed long ago. Until today, she saw the new game video released by Happy Paradise. What Li Wen didn't expect was that his new game video suddenly became popular. Maybe it was because of Brother Sledgehammer's remaining warmth, or because the video was so scary. Anyway, the video became popular. He and his company were once again on the hot search in the game circle. However, this time, there were no other game manufacturers to enliven the atmosphere, all of which were spontaneously initiated by the players. Horror game. For many players, the label of horror games is nothing more than putting a layer of horror on the game. The core of the game is also the abuse of monsters by players. To be honest, such a horror game has no horror effect at all. It seems that because of the general direction of the game market, no manufacturer has tried to make a truly pure horror game. It's all a trick game. A long time ago, there was a joke in the game circle. Horror game? Hee hee. Of course, there are some people who have made real horror games. Unfortunately, due to the game market, the games they make are often completely different. Not scary, not refreshing, even the plot is a piece of shit. It is no different from those four unlike games made by Li Wen's predecessor. It's strange that such a game can be sold. However, just watching Li Wenxin's game video will make people feel scared, and they can't imagine what kind of experience it will give people when playing on a real machine. Many players repost the video to various forums. There are also more and more discussions. It is a game whose name has not yet been decided. There is only a video of the game recorded, so it is so popular. Li Wen's Weibo has been commented by countless players, including those who applied for the job, those who encouraged him, those who liked him, and of course those who scolded him. Most of the comments scolding him. Most of the people who scolded him were because of the game Big Hammer. Yu reading www.yuyugonshu.com. Only a small part is scolding him because of the new game video. I got up to in the middle of the night, and I wanted to find a video to watch. I was very happy to see you release a new game. What I never expected was that you actually released a video of a real Underworld game. You know how I got back to the bedroom? Do you know how traumatic it was for me to go back to my bedroom? Do you know what kind of mood I used when my wife pushed me to the ground and beat me violently? Can we mark the title of the video in the future? I beg you. I was lying in bed last night and was about to go to bed. I just put down my phone when the recommended news came. The Happy Paradise you followed released its first new video. Do you know how excited I was? I am the 5th player in the world who has cleared Brother Sledgehammer, so I will definitely not miss the new game released by Happy Paradise, show. I was so scared by your video that I peed on the bed. How do you think you will compensate my bed sheets? My Fortune Treasure account is XXXXXXXX, I advise you not to be ignorant of compliments. All the comments seem to be scolding him, but they are actually working hard. How could someone wet the bed because of watching a video? Li Wen doesn't believe it, unless he sees it with his own eyes. Of course, he is not interested in men's bedwetting. If he is a different gender, he can sacrifice his precious time to observe it. After closing Weibo, he was looking forward to tomorrow's interview. As long as you recruit people, you can start the development of the game Escape. You know, in his previous world, the sales volume of the 2 Escapes reached 15 million. He is looking forward to a high-selling game. How much Escape can sell in this world? Getting rich overnight, maybe it will be realized soon.